Welcome back to my channel Relationship Haven. My name is Mark. Before this video starts, I want to let all my viewers know that this story is different than the usual stories I post on this channel. I hope you all are able to learn something valuable from it. The focus of this channel is to spread awareness of infidelity and how it impacts people's lives. Now let's get into today's story to find out what happened. About 25 years ago, I was in the military and was on a 2-year assignment from where my 38-year-old wife and I lived. We had been married about 20 years at that point, so I only came home on the weekends. After the first year, my wife started telling me to just stay there and not come home until my assignment finally ended. I refused and continued coming home on the weekends. She started treating me very coldly and not wanting to be intimate on those weekends. Then after another 3 or 4 months, she started randomly accusing me of cheating on her and continued being cold towards me. When my remote assignment ended, I was given orders overseas for 3 years, so I started preparing to rent out our house and move my wife and teenaged sons. My wife constantly fought with me about it by saying she did not want to go and that I should go by myself. Also during this transition, she was still cold and distant. My kids wanted to go, so she finally agreed to go. Once we got to the new location, she started constantly finding fault with everything with me and the location. So after 6 months there, I received permission to move her and my kids back home at the end of the year. The next 6 months were cordial at best. She was still cold, but allowed some intimacy about once a week. As the end of the year drew closer, she became excited about moving back and withdrew from me again. She stayed withdrawn from me for the last month or so. I took a 2 weeks leave about a week after she departed with the kids and went back home to help out. After about 3 hours of arriving, she was telling me to just leave and go back to my base. I stayed for about 10 days and returned to my base overseas. I was there for another 2.5 years. I would go home about every 4 months for 10 days and be treated the same way as I was the first time. We would be intimate twice in those 10 days, but I got a feeling she was doing it out of a feeling of obligation rather than desire. Also, she acted as if she wasn't really happy I was there and even stated she would like it better if I did not come back home until my time overseas was finished. For that remaining 1.5 years, she remained cold and distant when I visited and whenever I would call her to see if all was okay. If I mentioned I had gone to a cookout or bowling, she would accuse me of cheating and hang up. She would also constantly tell me everything was my fault and was always in her way of doing what she wanted. After I finally got transferred back, the coldness and distance remained. After 6 months back, I moved out. I stayed gone and even told her that if that is the way she was going to be, I wanted a divorce. So she agreed to marriage counseling. We went, but it was mostly a joke. She blamed her coldness and distance on me for not understanding her and what she wanted. So I moved back home and just ignored it from then on. I left the military and got a job that required constant traveling. Now 25 years later, we are both in our 60s and retired. I have a lot of time on my hands now and time for self-reflection. Hindsight is almost always 20/20. Now I question her actions as I look back and analyze them using various articles I have read from people who analyze cheating spouses. My wife's actions back then fit the pattern given by other cheaters, even though I don't have the proof. Over the years since then, some of her friends and previous coworkers have made snide remarks about her possibly cheating during get-togethers while the alcohol flowed. I have mentioned it to her a few times. She never denies what they say but responds by questioning their honesty or that they were probably doing it themselves. We still have an occasional blowout. A few times I have been so emotionally drained by always being who she lashes out at that I leave for a few hours just to get my composure back. When I come back, I tell her that I will leave if that is what she wants. Then she immediately states that she never cheated on me and has always been faithful. To recap, 25 years ago, my wife exhibited the cheating telltale symptoms listed by many professionals in the marriage counseling field. She pushed her spouse away, became distant, constantly found fault with her spouse, constantly denied cheating even though never accused of it, and constantly accused her remote spouse of cheating. Also, she constantly worked overtime on the weekends at her company even though no one else did except her boss. This occurred for about 3 years. So now to my question or dilemma. We have been married for 45 years now. I am now questioning our entire married years. I can't bury it in the back of my mind anymore. Should I leave this sleeping dog alone? Or should I discuss it all with her and probably tear our marriage apart? A few of her coworkers, also Asian, are still around. They were also her friends. I have to be really careful because they stay in touch on Facebook. So I know a couple of the husbands and will possibly try to talk with them. The two oldest kids are already out of the house. The youngest lived in the video game world and never paid much attention to her comings and goings. But I will talk with them for a little. Update. So I tried to reach out to someone and was very careful in what I said. His wife immediately called my wife, asking why we were separated and other BS. I am glad I did not actually ask my real questions, so this tells me I can't. I will just confront her directly and try to get her to believe I actually know something and not just suspicion. I need to get my physical living accommodations set up here in the US first. Next update. It has been a while since my original post and short update. I might have posted an update after the ones on the original post, so I confronted her. She denied what happened and kept asking who told me. She then just brushed it off as whoever it was must just be jealous of her. Even after I itemized her behavior back then in detail, she just continued to deny it. Then she started accusing me of not being nice back then and that I hurt her by not trusting her. She also kept wiping non-existent tears. As soon as I backed off, she just started saying that I had bad communication with her. Since then, I tried to get past it and took her on a Caribbean cruise, but I just don't have those loving feelings. At this point, I don't wish her any misfortune, but just want to leave her. Now my oldest son and his family decided to get ancestry DNA tests. They also told me the wife and I should. So I did, and I had my youngest do it also. Turns out that my oldest son and my youngest son are only half-brothers. The DNA test also shows that my oldest son is not my biological son, but my youngest is. I never suspected this. My wife was pregnant for about a month before we met. 2.5 months into our relationship, she told me she was pregnant. I was 19, so I assumed it was mine. I was quite naive and stupid then. So my upbringing and my infatuation convinced me that I needed to marry her. I ended up raising 2 kids that weren't mine. She had a 4-month-old when we met, and one that was. I love the 2 oldest just as much as my youngest. That will never change. I have not told the wife about this yet. I need to discuss it with my oldest son and then all 3 of them. Then I will also inform them that I'm divorcing their mother. The 2 oldest will have to ask her who their biological fathers are because I have no clue. Then I will video chat with her and inform her of everything and my intentions to file. I strongly feel there was an emotional affair and a physical affair that happened 25 to 30 years ago. I most likely will never know for sure. What I do know, though, is that my oldest son isn't mine. Final update. At the end of my last update, I was going to tell my kids the truth and then the wife. I told my kids 5 days ago. It was pretty tough. All of my kids took it pretty well, but I think my oldest son may still be processing it. I do not know if their biological dads are the same individual or 2 different men. So the oldest child will get a DNA test also. I told both of them to ask their mom. Hopefully, she will remember and tell them. I decided to just text my wife instead of video chat. After 40+ years, I knew that would end badly. I would probably lose my composure and blow up, which wouldn't have helped. Also, I am pretty emotional over this. The text was short and to the point. The DNA test showed the oldest child is not mine and is only a half-sibling to the youngest. I stated I did not accept being lied to for 40+ years, that the marriage was over, and that I would be filing for divorce. She replied shortly after that. I did not respond to any of her texts. First, it was a misunderstanding about her lying to me and that she did not know. Then it was just us having bad communication. Then she was sorry that I had so much hate for her and said she would sign the papers and hoped I would find someone that would make me happy. Next, she started blaming me for everything and said that I never cared and trusted her. All of her texting was over the span of about 2 days. I texted her that I would only text her regarding the kids, grandkids, and the divorce from now on. I included the financial support she will get and how. She asked if I would just send all of her belongings to her. Since then, it has been dead silence from her. She has contacted the two oldest about everything. I have not done the paperwork yet, but will do that shortly. That's all for now. OP, I am almost at a loss for words right now. Out of all the stories I've covered on this channel, this is by far the most heartbreaking story I've read. I honestly believe your wife is a full-blown psychopath. There is no way any sane person could lie to another person's face for over 40 years and not be bothered by it one bit. Your wife even went as far as to gaslight you and make it seem as if you were the problem. I highly recommend that you and your sons seek therapy from this traumatic situation. I am so sorry to hear you went through this and hope you are able to recover soon. To all my viewers, I honestly had doubts about sharing this story. However, I realized that it needed to be shared because these kind of things can happen. Be extremely careful with who you marry and remember to stand up for yourself. This story was heartbreaking to read, but the goal of my channel is to educate my viewers on the realities of infidelities that take place throughout the world and how to deal with them. I truly do hope OP is able to heal from this situation. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you enjoyed listening, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, comment below with your thoughts on what happened. Take care.